Hey, I'd like to share with you guys some things that you can do with your kids, some specialized kinesiology techniques that will be really helpful and practical. These are things that I used with my own kids when they were little. Example, we would go to an amusement park and they would go on the whirly bird and they would get all shooken up from the tilt-a-whirl and all that stuff that shakes them up. They'd run back to me and they'd say, "Mom, I feel nauseous, I feel nauseous, I feel like I'm gonna throw up." So what could I do? I would rub their neurolymphatic massage points between T5 and 6, right between the shoulder blades, bilateral to the spine. There's two reflexes that are created by Dr. Frank Chapman back in the 30s. And he correlated all these different spots on the body to specific organs. So if you rub those points about 20 to 30 seconds, usually that'll dissipate some of the nausea. And even if they have a tummy ache or some cramps, it can help with those things too. And guess what? I would rub those points and boom, they'd take off, they'd get in line, they'd do it all over again, come back, have me rub them again. And then sometimes I would say, why don't you rub your own points? Well, of course, they can't reach those in the back, but there is a spot on the front of the body that correlates with the stomach neurolymphatic points between the T5 and 6. And it's right on the left side of your body at your, I would say at the bra line. And it's only on the left. And you just rub vigorously across that for, probably 15 to 20 seconds is probably going to be good enough. So they could rub their own point. But you know what? They wanted mom's special touch. So we had a lot of fun with that. We could have a great day at the amusement park and go on ride after ride without having to go home early. Another thing that you can do is there was Dr. Terrence Bennett. He was back in the 20s and 30s also, and he created the Bennett reflexes. They were renamed later Neurovascular holding points. And these are points that are related to the vascular system of the body, and they too are correlated with specific organs. There's a set of points on the forehead which are particularly helpful. It's kind of the overall blanket for many different stressful situations. They're located right at the frontal eminence here, the highest point on your forehead. So the way that you use it is you just lightly touch those points. You can use two hands, or I often just lay one hand, as long as it's super light. We're talking butterfly touch, probably the weight that you would put on your eyeballs. Super, super light. So you hold those points while you're fretting, worrying, feeling anxious, when they're fearful, upset. I often would use those if they woke up in the night with a bad dream. I would just come in and I would lay my hand across their forehead, and just before I knew it, they would drift back to sleep. A lot of times before they went to school, if that was the day that they had a test, or if there was going to be a sports game or a play, different performances, anything, you can use this for current things that are going on or things that are coming up in the future. The points on the front are related to the stomach meridian. And according to Chinese medicine, the emotions that go with stomach are overwhelm, stress, anxiety, okay? And then when we're feeling those emotions, a lot of times we just shut down and we're stuck back in our reptilian brain, which is in the back of our head. And as long as we're stuck back there, those thoughts are just bailing. They're going around and around and around. What we want to do is we want to get that up to the executive function, the frontal lobe. That's where we can finally come up with a solution, where we can finally let go of it. The negative charge is not quite as strong. It just seems like it kind of melts away when we hold those points. There's also a powerful point at the back of the head, and that's related to the kidney meridian. It's on the occipital protuberance, and kidneys emotions are primarily fear. So if we want to combine the back point and the front point, it's called frontal occipital hold. And you're joining together, the emotions of fear with anxiety and overwhelm, and you can just gently hold the head like this. And that is a super powerful technique. What I love to do is combine that with Cook's posture. Some of you have heard of Wayne Cook. He was a specialist in magnetic the magnetic field, study of electricity and energy, and he created a posture that we can put our body into, and it's been called Cook's posture, Cook's hookups. And the way that we do that is we take our fingers and we interlace them, and we bring them up and hold them against our body while our feet are crossed. And then they suggest in Brain Gym, I learned this through Dr. Paul Dennison's work in Brain Gym, he suggests that you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and as you inhale, the tongue is up, and then as you exhale, you drop the tongue down and relax. There's a few different variations to do Cook's posture. I'm going to show you a couple. The first classic one is where you put your hands out in front of you, put your palms back to back, and then lift one hand over the other and interlace your fingers. Bring that up through and just rest it on your chest comfortably, okay? And then cross your ankles. Okay, cross your ankles. And then I would suggest that you close your eyes, have your kids close their eyes and just sit back and relax. And I just want them to take some nice deep breaths through the nose and then out the mouth. And do probably 4 or 5 rounds of that. And you'll be surprised that pretty soon the shoulders come down, the breathing changes. They probably get a yawn or a sigh as a sign of a shift. That's a release. And when they get that yawn or sigh, you can have them unclasp their hands and touch their 5 fingers together. And this brings together the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, and it also anchors what you just did. And when our body is in this position with the ankles crossed, we're sort of it's making a figure 8. Now it's been studied that there's many figure 8 energy patterns that are superimposed all around our body, and that our energy likes to move throughout our body in a figure 8 pattern. So when we go into Cook's posture, we're connecting all our circuits together. And it's very powerful to do the frontal occipital hold while they're sitting in Cook's posture. That will just bring them down very quickly. Cook's posture is good for grounding, centering. It's good for just calming the nervous system. They'll be able to think more clearly. Also, I wanted to tell you, along with the emotional stress release points, if they ever have a headache that's behind the eyes or on the forehead, it's often a stress headache. It's related to the stomach meridian. And so if you have them hold their own points, if they're at school or not around you, you can just teach them to do this. Just hold their own forehead, and that will lift off that headache most of the time. And then I would recommend to have them drink a glass of water. Did you know that a lot of times headaches can be alleviated or completely disappear just by drinking a glass of water? It's that simple. And another thing about water is that we can have daytime fatigue. A lot of times if you're just feeling that afternoon slump, drink a glass of water and you'll be totally amazed. So I recommend, if it's possible, send the water bottles with your kids to school and have them sip throughout the day. It's more valuable to continue sipping as opposed to just glugging a whole jug at a time. And what I do to try to remind myself to drink throughout the day is I place glasses of water throughout my house. I've got some in my bedroom and my kitchen and my living room and the different places that I go to remind myself. And I just take a little sip wherever I go. And that usually is an effective way to help me stay hydrated throughout the day. There's another powerful technique. It's called cross-crawl integration. Now, cross-crawl is something that we started when we were babies. We started out crawling, and that was laying down the pathway for the neurological development for higher learning. And even studies show that babies that did not get enough crawling time can sometimes struggle later in life with learning, particularly reading. So get lots of cross-crawl. Kids do that, or they do the marching. When they skip, that's the best thing that they can actually do. So get your kids to go out and just skip, 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 because what we want to do is we're going to take the opposite hand and touch the opposite knee. So we're doing this cross-crawl movement, okay? And did you know that Hitler, he made his soldiers march with the same arm and the same leg. We call that the Hitler March. The reason why he did that is because it scrambles the brain. It scrambles the body neurologically. People that are in a homolateral state, that's what we call that, they're very subject to mind control. And they did whatever he wanted without really thinking. So we want to be able to think, and we want access to both hemispheres of the brain. And when we're doing the cross crawl movements, we're crossing the body's midline, and that's accessing both hemispheres at the same time. We don't want to be stuck into the right brain or too heavily stuck into the left. We want access to both sides. When my little girl was probably 5, 6 years old, we would stand out in the yard and I would pitch balls to her. She was practicing her batting. And if she started missing a lot of the balls, she would say, wait, Mom, stop. She said, let me do some cross crawl. So she would do some cross crawl right there in place. And then she would say, okay, let me picture an X. So she would close her eyes and she would picture an X. And then guess what? I'd throw a ball, bam! She'd hit it so great. Every time we did the cross crawl, it really helps with sports coordination, hand-eye coordination, accessing both hemispheres, like I said. It's a powerful technique, and we all should do it every day. A lot of times I start my day with just doing some cross crawl. I get out of bed, I drink my water, I go to the bathroom, I start rubbing some points that you learn in my specialized kinesiology workshop. I teach you how to switch on the brain to access all parts. We've got something called the triune brain, and we want to have access to all the areas of our brain and our muscles and our body. So cross-crawling can help with that. There's another powerful technique. It's called the auricular technique. We have 400 known acupressure points in our ears. They go to all the different parts of the body. And particularly if you unroll your ears, you just start at the top, teach your kids to do this, unroll from the top and down. You do that really vigorously, about 3 times, and then I want you to pull on the ears all the way down. Do that about 3 times, pull back, pull sideways, pull forwards, twist, pull, okay? Then go inside. You know what this is going to do? It's going to switch on the auditory processing center of the brain. When my kids were little, I have 4 kids, we'd have story time. So I'd sit on the couch and I would tell them, let's put our listening ears on. So we would do the auricular exercise before I would read, because I wanted them to be able to be attentive and to be able to hear what I was saying. And there was some time when I was homeschooling and we would have tests and quizzes after I would read a story. And I wanted them to be able to be successful and remember the answers. So by doing the auricular exercise, it perked up their memory and their hearing and their attentiveness. And it would be really fun to read to them when everybody was sitting and really engaged. So the auricular technique is awesome for that. And it also helps put an auditory filter on to filter out extraneous sounds that are annoying. Say there's a barking dog that's like, oh, you can't stop it, or maybe a dripping faucet, a ticking of a clock, something like that that is just like distracting you and annoying you. You can unroll your ears and that will shoop, it'll put a filter on it so it will not be like, the fingernails on the chalkboard. There are so many different things that you can do for your kids. And these are a few of the things that I teach in my specialized kinesiology workshop. If you'd like to learn more about those workshops, just reach out. Feel free to contact me and I'd love to have that conversation. And also, I want you to feel free to ask me any questions about these techniques too. Be healthy, be well, be happy, be balanced, and make it a great day.